Hey everyone, Austin Brodzinski here with Austin's Trains. Today we are going to be beginning part number 2 of the 4x8 layout revival series. Now, you might notice that the layout is already on framework and it's basically all the work for part 2 is already done. Um, so this is being recorded after the fact, after I've done all the work for part 2. So basically, I filmed, I guess what you could say, the body of part 2, and tonight I'm filming the intro and outro. Um, so basically, the reason I did this is because after I started on the framework for this, I decided to make a little bit of a change of plans, and you'll see what that is as time goes on. Um, I originally was not going to leave all of the figuring everything out to get to this point in. I was originally going to just cut that out and just get to the point. But I decided I'm going to leave it in, not only for your entertainment of watching me struggle, but also because I wanted to show that this is the process of rebuilding a layout. This is the process of trial and error, of figuring out what's going to work and what's not. And I just kind of wanted to show you the whole process. Um, Now, if you want to skip ahead to where the actual progress is being made, you can go ahead and skip ahead right now. I'm going to put it in the video right now. Okay, so now that I've given you the opportunity to skip ahead if you'd want to, for those of you who are going to stick around for the rest of the video, um, I guess pull out a chair and get comfy because this is going to take a second. Um, so really, I started getting back to this layout maybe about a week ago, and it all started with going through all of these boards that are behind me and some that are off camera. Now, these boards I got from old pallets that I had gotten for free from my former place of employment. These pallets were used for shipping riding tractors into the store, um, prevent damage basically. So I got these for free. I figured, hey, these might make some great, layout beams. But as you can see, they're still sitting behind me, so that didn't work for this project. Maybe for a future part of this down the road, however. I have some plans in mind that we might be able to use these, so stay tuned for that. Um, and if nothing else, I just have a bunch of really nice firewood, so, you know, it's a win-win situation. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and start the footage of when I was actually trying to figure everything out, what my original plan was. And then you're going to see plans are going to change rather unexpectedly and rather quickly as time goes on. So, yeah, you might want to grab some popcorn and, you know, get comfy because this is going to take a second. Alright guys, so I've started to attack the pile of lumber. I've been taking any nails and staples and what have you out of the pieces of lumber, and then we're going to stage them right here depending on what we're going to keep. So the pile on the left here is the stuff we're going to keep. This is going to be good layout building material. And the stuff on the right here is going to be donated to the J&L Narrow Gauge Railroad in Youngstown, Ohio, to be used as firewood to start up the steam locomotives. So basically, what I'm looking for, I don't care if the bottom edge has a knot or any imperfections like that, or even if the top has it, but it's not, right on the edge. Basically, what I'm looking for is the top of these boards, which are the side rails of the pallets, to be nice and smooth, as you can see here. These ones are being disposed of because you can see they either have split on the end or they have knots on the end that will uh, not allow me to put screws in to the top of these whenever we go to install them on the layout, and will not let us get good tooth on them. So basically what we're doing is we're keeping these really nice good ones here. Like I said, I don't care if the bottom of them's a little messed up or the side's messed up. It's the top I'm worried about. So we're getting rid of the bad ones over here, and then we're keeping all the good ones. So what these will do is these are going to go underneath the table here. Obviously we're going to redo all the wiring, but these will go underneath the table and support the table lengthwise. And yeah, as you can see, I have quite a few of them to choose from, and really I only need 2, so I already have enough for this project. But I figured, hey, let's just go through it all and figure out what's good and what's bad. And then this is all just random scraps from the pallets, so these are the tops and ends of the pallets. We'll be going through this as well because this is good either leg material or cross brace material or what have you. So yeah, we're slowly making some progress here. Alright, so like I've mentioned before, I got all of this lumber for free. I used to work at a grocery store that had a hardware section, and they were getting rid of some pallets that some tractors came on. And they pretty much just said, take as many as you want. And so I did, and I ended up with, I think it was something like 5 or 6 of these big pallets. And these are the oversized pallets, by the way. These are not, you know, like your regular sized pallets. I think they're like, what, 4 foot by 4 foot or something like that. These were like 5 feet by like 6 or 7 feet or something like that. They were like maybe 5 by 7. But they're good pallets, you know, they're good solid pallets. And so I got them for free. In some areas you might have to pay for them, but using reclaimed pallets like this can be a decent way to get some somewhat decent lumber for your layout. Like these were the top braces on the pallet, or the ends or something like that. Of course, the only drawback is, as you can see, you're going to have nails. So you just need to simply pound them out, which, depending on how many you have, can be a time-consuming process. But once you get quick enough at it, bent one there. That's what happens if you don't hit it square. As you can see, once you get really good at it, you can get the nails out pretty quick. Now then, the next thing you want to do is look down the entire length of the board on all 4 sides and see if it's warped or damaged or anything else. This one looks pretty good, so I think we're going to keep this one. But I have some other boards over here that aren't so good. So this one, you can very clearly see, or maybe not, it is bowed. Quite severely, actually. So I wouldn't recommend using that one. So that'll become firewood. But as you can see, once you really get into a rhythm, it's relatively easy to get these boards taken care of pretty quick. But yeah, if you want to try to get some pallet lumber before you go and spend money on, you know, brand new lumber, I'd ask around at like your grocery stores, or even your hardware stores or anything like that, because they might have some pallets out in the back that they're just wanting to get rid of. Now, bear in mind, you're going to get, as you can see, quite a few bad boards for maybe some good ones. So if you have to pay for them, I would recommend just getting new lumber. But we got all this for free. What have we got to lose? So I'm going to go ahead and get to work on some more of these. I'm not going to video the whole process just because this is going to take a while. But yeah, we'll catch up with everything once we get more done. can see, this is a very, very time-consuming process. Still have all these boards to go through. I mean, I've got a decent amount done, but it's going to take a while. So why don't we jump ahead a little bit? So with the magic of video editing... Oh, wait, didn't work, did it? Oh, okay, hold on. With the magic of video editing... All right, that's a lot better. Can actually see the floor again. Though I need to sweep that up. So basically what I've done, I went through the bulk majority of the boards, as you can see. Kind of got most of them sorted out. I'm not too horribly worried about these ones just yet, or these ones. I'll basically worry about them if I absolutely need materials. But for right now, I don't. So all this stuff here is no good. There's a bunch of different issues with it. So yeah, we're not going to be using that. So basically, here's our lumberyard. This is what we have to work with. And yeah, so let me go ahead and pick out the boards we're going to use and kind of lay out what my plan is. All right, guys, well, I've kind of run into my first dilemma here that I'm kind of trying to figure out, and I wanted to pretty much just include you in the whole process of doing this and show you some problems that you might run into. And well, I've run into my first major problem of this project. So originally my plan was to use, where'd I put them? These 2x6s here, and build some kind of framing on the underside of the table that would basically come down maybe about to here and allow this whole table to sit on one of these fold-up tables, which would be great. I mean, these are pretty solid tables. You really don't have to worry about them. But I'm already noticing under the weight of the layout, this table's bowing a little bit. And it might just be this table. It might just be worn out. Or it just simply might be that this is a pretty heavy layout. And yeah, I don't know if this is going to work. So what I'm currently wondering if I should do is perhaps possibly build basically a table purposely just to go under this. Because I mean, I do have these really long 2x4s here that could serve as like main beams. So I'm kind of wondering if I ought to do that, or if nothing else, maybe just run them practically the length of the table and see if maybe that will help to support the layout a little bit more underneath. But yeah, I don't know. So I'm going to keep racking my brain for a little while, and yeah, I'll get back to you once I have a plan. So it was at this point that I realized that, my original plan of having this layout be able to come apart in two pieces was not going to work. Truth be told, I've never built one of these little portable layouts before that could be disassembled. My former layout, I mean, it's still up, but my other layout is a solid 4x8 with, I believe, 2x4s for all the framing beams underneath, and then doubled up 2x4s for the legs, with bracing on the bottom as well. That table was never intended to be moved or anything else. Disassembling that in the future is going to be interesting, I have a feeling. But I'm used to building stuff that's going to stay put. I'm not used to building stuff that's supposed to be able to be moved. So that's why this was going to be a unique project for me. My original plan was I wanted to be able to utilize the cut that I made in the table and be able to make the layout split in half. My original thought was to use a fold-up table just like I did now as the base of the table, and then build suitable framework underneath the layout that would allow it to come apart. I kind of figured either using some carriage bolts and a couple other pieces of wood with holes drilled in them to basically bolt the two sections together, or even using the latches from like a drop leaf table to latch the sections together. Both of which I'm sure would work just fine if the sections were framed properly. And I neither had the resources or the knowledge to be able to frame this the way that I wanted to, especially to still be able to use a folding table as the base. So, long story short, that's why that did not work that way. I was also a little bit concerned about the stability of the fold-up tables. I noticed this particular one was bowing in the middle. However, I later realized that was just because this is not really the best table, quite frankly. So, basically, that kind of worried me that we wouldn't have enough support in the middle of the table. I also worried about the track joint at the middle of the table there, where the cut was made. Now, it probably wouldn't have been too difficult to make that transition. However, I was worried that either if the ends of the track got messed up in transit, or something didn't line up right after moving it, I was really worried that that would really mess things up. And from what I've seen people do, they typically, if they do something like that, they have some kind of a screw adjustment where they can, line the tracks back up if they didn't line up initially during assembly. I don't really know how to do that yet. I'm still kind of learning about that. So maybe in a future project we will make an attempt to truly make a portable layout. But it was at this point that I decided to use the 2x4s that I had originally gotten with the layout and just go ahead and make this a solid 4x8 sheet once again. This wasn't really my ideal choice to do for this layout, especially now that sooner or later we're going to have to get it out of here and move it to my future home. And yeah, let's just say that's not going to be fun, but I think it was for the best for this layout. Now our gap is as closed up as it's going to get. We're going to have a nice smooth transition between the two sections, and I don't have to worry about a joint that's going to be coming apart and going back together 100 times over. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut to the footage where I figured out that, hey, maybe it would be best to leave this as a 4x8 and just go from there. And yeah, so now you're going to see the construction of the framework that I eventually did put under this layout, and you're going to see the final assembly. Alright guys, well, I've thought about a solution now for probably over an hour, and I think the best thing I'm going to be able to do is to just take these 2x4s, cut them down to 8 feet, and pretty much just run them underneath the table and screw it all together, basically converting this into a solid 4x8 table again. Not really the solution I wanted. I kind of wanted to make this a layout that could be taken apart, but given the fact that the cut was not exactly at 4 feet, it's not really the straightest of cuts either. That was kind of my fault. And just the general nature of the way that this table is built in general, it doesn't really lend itself to being taken apart very easily. My biggest concerns were the fact that the edges of the table might not be supported really well. I worried about joints wearing out after a while. And so yeah, basically I've decided this is just going to be a full-on 4x8 table. If I am to take it to a show, I'm going to have to either strap it down to the roof and cover it up very, very well, or I'm going to have to find somebody who has a truck or a trailer that can handle this. Now, the good news is it will still sit on a folding table. However, I'm going to have to figure out a way to basically take a little more of the load off the table. Still a little bit worried about it bowing like that. Although I think once we put the 2x4s underneath it, we should be okay. So let's go ahead and go up to the house, get these cut, and yeah, go ahead and get these screwed into the table. Alright guys, well after much thought and several hours, because now it is like 9 o'clock at night, kind of come to a solution here. So we have these 2x4s right here. They're exactly 8 feet long. We have these end boards here, 37 inches. So all the way across is 40 inches, which correlates to basically putting the screws to mount this table to this framework right between the rails. So if everything works out well, all the screws should be right between the rails and we should have no issues. Like I said earlier, this will make this table that was once 2 pieces. Well, first it was 1 piece, then I, Phil Swifted it and made it 2 pieces. So now it's going to be 1 piece again. So yeah, I think this is going to be the best solution for this layout. I think I'll have other plans for a more portable layout at some point in the future, so stay tuned for that. Anyway, with that being said, I'll get the time lapse going, and yeah, we'll get building. Alright guys, well there's the frame built. Now, I know what you're going to say, this 2x4 is bowed. But guess what? It's okay. The important part is this top surface here is pretty much exactly level. I mean, it's not good practice to use bowed boards like this one here, but I wanted to use what I had. And I wanted to show that you can use scrap pieces of lumber to build a layout. You'll also notice right here, I have a bit of extra framework for the spot where the layout was cut in half. So yeah, we're just about ready to transfer the table over to the framework for the first time. I just need to remove all of the wiring from all the switch motors and all that other stuff prior to doing that.
so that way no wires get pinched, and then we can start fresh with wiring in the next episode. All right, well, I will be back after I get all the wiring stripped, and we will go ahead and get this down onto the frame. All right, guys, it's now time for the moment we've all been waiting for. Got the 3-foot section there, and the 5-foot section right here. It's time to bring them together once again. All right, so I got the board down, 4x8 down onto the frame, and I'm starting to put the screws in using these. Using these 2.5-inch Phillips head screws just to make sure I'm getting pretty well down in there. For anybody who is just starting into the hobby, definitely make sure that you pre-drill your holes in your table. So I'm going to find a drill bit that's basically the size of the shank of the screw minus the threads. As long as you do that, you should be in pretty good shape. So I'm going to put in a screw right about here. I'm going to feel underneath, see roughly where I'm at. Not really the best place, but we can do this. It's best normally to try and avoid any tracked areas on a layout that you may have just bought. But in this case, we have no choice. So we're going to carefully first drill down in. Be careful, that drill bit's going to be hot. And then I use something called a countersink bit, which you'll see what it does in just a second. Right. And put your screw in. And then drive it home. Now what that countersink bit did is it sunk the screw down into the table, so now it can easily be covered by scenery or whatever you'd like. And one last thing you want to check is just look along the edge of the table and make sure you didn't run the screw down too far, which looks like we did pretty good here. So now we can move on to the next one. Alright, so now we have the 5-foot end down. So now we have to do our best to line up the 3-foot end as perfectly as possible, and then drive some screws into it. Yeah, so just to recap, always pre-drill your holes. Feel under the table, see where the screw needs to go. Pre-drill your holes. This prevents the wood from splitting and also prevents your screw from wanting to wander as you're trying to put it in. Use a countersink bit. These things pay for themselves immediately. It will let your screw sit down nice and flush like you see on this one here, or even slightly below the surface, and allow you to put ground cover over it to completely hide it from view. And last, make sure you use the right length of screw. I see a lot of people use screws that aren't long enough. I tend to want to go for a screw that might be slightly longer than you might need. I'm going with 2.5-inch screws. I mean, you figure through the plywood you're going through 1/2 inch, so that's giving you 2 inches down into the wood, basically, down into the frame, that makes sure it's nice and solid for you. So that's just kind of my advice when doing this. Let's go ahead and get this last section lined up. put it right there is pretty good to me. Yeah, just to give you an idea, guys, it's like 11:30 at night right now. So I've been working on this for going on probably 4 or 5 hours now. So I'm very happy with this here. This is the last one. Alright, see how we look. Look pretty good to me. Well, that's a wrap, guys. And I fixed it without Flex Seal. And here's the layout. After a very long trip from Ravenna to Bergholz, Stephen Thomas's old layout, my new layout, finally has a frame. Boy, does it feel good to be at this point. So as you can see, I think it came out pretty good. Is it perfect? No, it really isn't. The 2x4s were definitely a little more warped than I thought they were. Well, at least this one was anyway. So the edge over there isn't really exactly the best. But the most important thing, the table's level. The gap is nice and smooth. Really, honestly, it's just fine. And that should be proof that it doesn't have to always be 100% perfect, as long as it's pretty close anyway. Now, if we were actually building legs under this, and we were building full-fledged bench work under this, then yeah, it probably should have been a little bit better. But while I can say it's definitely not my best work, it definitely seemed to work for this layout. And now it's really, really solid. This layout's not flexing. It's not going to move. It's not going to twist or warp or anything else. It's nice and solid. As I'm sure you saw in the video, I put a couple of extra braces right where the cut was, and I drove a few screws into those as well, just to make sure that we really had that joint secured. So yeah, basically the initial idea of having this be a layout that can split in half, okay, I might have sent her a little bit too hard there. But in the end, despite we had the change of plans, I think this is still going to work amazingly well. So basically, that's about it for part 2. Pretty soon here I can start working on track now that we have everything done with the bench work. So as a matter of fact, brought some cork down that I had. Shouldn't really need a lot of it, but I brought some down. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to just start analyzing the track plan. We're going to see what's going to work and what's not going to work. I'm hoping I don't have to relay too much of this, although I have a feeling there's going to be some that's going to need to be replaced. And some sections that might be taken out or changed. But yeah, and then over the gap in the table here with the cork, I'll just cut the original cork out where the cut was made, and we'll just run some fresh cork across that to make sure that we have a nice smooth gap, or not even a gap, just a really nice smooth transition between that gap across it, just to make sure that we don't have any issues. So yeah, after that we can get wiring done. And yeah, so what I'm hoping is maybe by the end of June, maybe even a little sooner, we can maybe get some trains running on this layout. That would be great. we got a little ways to go yet before we get to there. Still trying to figure out, like, for example, what I want to do with the turnout motors. I don't know whether I'm going to actually keep these in or if I'm just going to convert this all to hand throws for simplicity. We're going to have to run feeder wires. I'm going to have to build a control panel somewhere over here, I'm kind of thinking. And then we'll have to wire in DCC along with an analog switch as well. That way I can still run my direct current locomotives. This extra siding here on the side, I think I'm also going to insulate it and make it as a program track as well, so I can program locomotives on the layout without having to have a separate track. So yeah, I think this has a lot of potential. I'm really excited to see how this is going to turn out, and I hope you guys are excited as well. So yeah, expect to see part 3 out here in the coming weeks, as I don't really think there's going to be very much track work to do, guys. So yeah, we should have this ready to go pretty soon to run trains. So thank you all for watching. If you stuck around and watched the whole thing, I greatly appreciate it. I know this video is probably going to be a little bit longer than I wanted it to be, but I wanted to show the whole process. I also want to say thank you guys so much for 200 subscribers. I think the last time I checked, we were at like 223, I think, which that was earlier this week that I checked. But thank you guys so much. It is so greatly appreciated. I never really thought I was going to get this far with a YouTube channel, especially with as few videos as I've made so far, and as, well, not well known that I am. So, you know, thank you guys from the bottom of my heart so much. I appreciate it. You know, just keep on supporting the channel. I want to try to make this a great place that modelers can meet and watch videos and learn something about the hobby as I learned through my journey. And yeah, hopefully this will become a great resource for all of you, my viewers, that will be free to access whenever you want. Also look forward to some product reviews coming up in the near future as well. Let's see. Coming up, I'm going to have the Broadway Limited Imports Commodore Vanderbilt Hudson. I'm really, really excited about that review. And I also went ahead and pre-ordered the Scale Trains 52-foot 6-inch mill gondolas. I pre-ordered 3 of them at the pre-order deadline. I believe it was this past month. And whenever those come in late October, we'll do a review on those and see if they're really worth it or not. Because I've heard some mixed reviews on them, but I wanted to give them a shot. So anyway, that's going to wrap it up for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you for 200 plus subscribers. It is greatly appreciated. Stay tuned for part 3 of the Layout Rebuild series. And until next time, I'm Austin Brodzinski, signing off.